About 3,000 of you subscribe, but only about 200 are getting notifications, so click the bell and click all. Hello lovelies. I think there has been a pole shift, a sea change, a shift in the zeitgeist from where the major threats to our liberties, the rights and so on that we take for granted, has moved away from the pseudo-left, the zombie left, whatever you want to call it, and has instead shifted to the right. I think the right now presents, once again, a much more clear and present danger to you, if you want to live your life how you want, than the left does. Now, this is primarily a European, UK and US cultural zeitgeist. It's not the same everywhere. We do see some things shifting back the other way in certain countries, but yeah, if you're an English speaker, I think you'll recognise this if you think about it. Now, the social pressures from the left haven't gone away. There are still problems with boycotts, there are still problems with cancellations on Twitter and so on. Those haven't gone away, but social pressures from the right, and more importantly, state-backed legal and other pressures from the right, these have stepped up. We've been in the worst of all possible worlds for some time, with the pseudo-left in control of social issues, the culture, and the right in charge of economics and policy. But it's getting to the point where I think the right is also starting to take over the cultural zeitgeist as well, which in a lot of ways is even worse. It is the right that now threatens your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. To pick a few examples out of the air, the problems with abortion in the United States, the threats to the right to strike that is occurring over here in the UK, the threat of austerity as a stupid response to the economic downturn all around the world. And that economic downturn and the other things that are going on, there are obvious historical parallels. The blame game. Certain people are traitors. Immigrants are the problem. The other people are the problem. Gays are the problem. Society is problematic. Society is degenerate. There are historical solutions to these stresses and strains on society by making things better for everybody. But there doesn't seem to be a political movement, an alternative to the status quo, that really presents those material alternatives for people, which doesn't give me a lot of hope that anything is going to get better anytime soon. Even the supposedly left-wing parties seem to have completely accepted the neoliberal consensus, and any attempt to move away from that has been sabotaged, whether it be Jeremy Corbyn over here or Bernie Sanders over there. And there were people online in alternative media, like me, who did present alternative viewpoints, who did present some sort of resistance to the pseudo-left attacks, but they have become part of the machine, most of them, that perpetuates the right-wing attacks on people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We don't really need a right-wing alternative media when we have a fairly right-wing mass media, whether it be Fox News in the US or the right-wing tabloids here in the UK, or the other mainstream media that is supposedly left-wing, run by extremely timid people who are being intimidated by governments or other issues, so they're not presenting an alternative point of view. Like it or not, mainstream media is status quo or right-wing, and online alternative media seems to have largely slid to the right. There are grifters on all sides, but we don't really need a right-wing alternative media when mainstream media is so right-wing or status quo in the first place. People like Sargon or Tim Pool are hugely disappointing because they have become grifters. I don't think they started that way. I think their audience has led them over that way, and they have now become the mirror image of the very people that they used to criticize. Woke has come to mean not propagandists, not crude box-ticking exercises or patronizing benevolent racism. Now it's just anything they don't like. Groomer has been overused, which is a dangerous word to rob of its meaning in the same way that fascist is a dangerous word to rob of its meaning. Their media criticism is extremely shallow. It's I don't like it built up to be this is a threat to Western civilization, which is just as absurd as the Anita Sarkeesians of this world thinking I don't like this to this is an attack on all women and we must do away with this because it represents a threat. This is undermining Western civilization is just as moronic, just as hyperbolic as those kinds of claims. Now, shout out to Jeff Holiday, Shoe-on-Head, and The Amazing Atheist for bucking this trend, but a lot of people are just telling their audience what they think their audience wants to know, because that's where the money is, right? And creating a fuss about nothing, because drama is where the money is. The very things that we all used to criticise Gorka over, they are now doing because of the money. The money that corrupted online media and so on in the first place. The things we used to criticise, What can you do about it? I don't really know. You can't appeal to the ethics, ironically enough, of people that don't seem to have any. The system is set up in a way to make it very difficult to upend or overturn or revise or change. The most you can do with your vote is damage mitigation, which is worthwhile in and of itself, but there don't seem to be any avenues for making the kind of positive change that we need. But in terms of alternative media, I would appeal to my fellow alternative media people to adhere to principles rather than tribes, to tell people what they need to know rather than what they want to know, to doubt yourself and to engage in an enormous amount of self-examination and doubt all the time. I certainly do. But there is this change. The left, for all its sound and fury and the genuinely negative effects that cancellation and demonization and so on can have, it's not in law, it's not backed by the state most of the time. But the way the right wing has gone after things, it is co-opting the state to enforce their own social views, to be their own type of social justice warrior, if you will. And that is far more dangerous. So if we're going to triage, if we're going to prioritize problems, I think the right is the much bigger problem now than the pseudo-left. Zang.
Greetings, Jerkian warrior elite. Know this, that your existence is down to the orders of our portly potentate, and that without him you would not exist. Your very conception in the clone tanks of Clonius, the cloning planet, is ordained by his obese omnipotence, and from that very moment you owe him your life, your servitude, and your loyalty. To be a soldier in the glorious army of the Jerkian Empire is perhaps the best fate that can befall lowly matter in this universe. The Jerkian Empire is all-conquering, all-powerful, has the best uniforms, the most advanced weaponry, and the greatest leader the galaxy has ever known. Nothing can stand in our way. and you, even as lowly as you are, can die knowing that you are serving a far greater cause and a far superior people to any other in the universe.
Invaders is a comedy game of mishap and alien adventure, where you play the part of diminutive and comedically and epically incompetent alien invaders. You can get it at post-mort.com and drive-through RPG.